Hey guys, it's Homie. Our topic for the 4-5 Tech Talk is going to be the middle section of our checklist. I'm going to just jump right in. The first item on the checklist in the second column is to check and clean your start and fill buttons. Now there are a couple things I like to do here. I'll turn the power off to the machine, press each button, and I'm doing two things. I'm listening for a nice clean, crisp click, and I'm also feeling for any funky resistance in there that might be other than the spring. Now, every time I service one of these machines, I always hit the outsides of these grommets with a wire brush. Get any residual grease you've got off the front of it off. It is recommended that at least every 3 periods, you remove these buttons, grommets, and springs and clean them. This is a top mount machine. The procedure is exactly the same on a legacy machine. They're just on their own fill box. Grab yourself a 5/8 wrench. Please do not use a pair of channel locks on these. These are chrome plated brass and you will gouge them and they'll leave sharp edges. You don't want to do that. Take a wrench and simply loosen your switches, your grommets here, so that they're hand tight and you can unscrew them. A real important thing to remember on top mount machines, if you open it up, there's an L-shaped bracket here that the start and fill switches attach to. On newer top mount machines, they are spot welded to the front face of the cabinet. On older machines, however, they're simply set in place and kept in place by the grommets. So when you go to unscrew these, you're going to want to turn the power off and hold on to this bracket as you're unscrewing until you're sure that that bracket is actually spot welded in place. If you unscrew this and you have one that's not spot welded, you don't turn the power off, it's very likely that switch is going to fall in here and you're going to short something out. Now, with the buttons, you've got 3 pieces here. You've got a grommet, a button, and a spring. Each of them tend to build up grease over time. Everybody's got their own way of cleaning these. I like to take my spring and hold it gently with my needle nose pliers and simply hit it with a wire brush, clean any grease that's in it out of it. Take my rubber. The button itself, wipe both sides of it off. You'll notice on the button, there is a thicker side and a thinner side to it. Thinner side goes in towards the switch. Cleaning the grommet. The easiest way I've found to do it is take your rag and a flat blade screwdriver. Wrap your screwdriver in and stick your blade in there and simply ripe through the inside of that grommet. Clean the grease out, inspect them. One other thing you need to do while you're doing this is to physically look inside this hole at the button on that switch. If there's enough grease accumulated inside this, you'll have grease on that button, which is the actual micro switch, and it tends to get stuck. Take a screwdriver and a rag, and I will wipe that out. Make sure it's clean. You can always take the tip of your screwdriver too. Press on the button and make sure that it makes a nice clean, crisp sound and that it doesn't bind up. Put the button and the spring back together. Screw it back on the machine. Again, please do not use channel locks on these. Use the appropriate wrench and just snug it up. If you have an older top mount where this bracket is not welded to the cover, when you're tightening it up, hold this in place so that it stays oriented properly. The procedure for your fill button is the exact same. I will tell you, if you have more grease built up on your fill button than you do your start button, and you don't have a door switch on the machine, your machine's probably not holding water. So that's something to check as well. Checking your wash and your run lights. Guys, these get neglected a lot of times. These lights are very important. On a Legacy, you've only got one light that lights up when the machine is running. On top mount machines and U34s and Space Makers, you've got two. You've got a power light and a run light. Both of them are important. Make sure your lenses are not broken. Make sure they're bright. Make sure they both work properly. If they're getting dim or the lenses are broken or they don't work, turn your power off to the machine. It's 2 wires and the light just clips in place. They're very, very easy to replace. There's no reason to have a light that doesn't work. Okay, next thing to check is your strainer. All the new machines, come over here. All of our newer machines have a Y-type strainer. Your water comes in here. Notice the way it's oriented. It's oriented this way so that any debris in the water line will fall into this filter before it gets stuck in the fill valve. This is a Y strainer. It's got a lid that is simply a metal to metal fit. If you unscrew this, inside here, if I can get it out of there, is your strainer screen. If you ever have a problem with the machine having a low water level where it's been fine in the past, before you make any adjustments to the timer, this needs to be pulled out and checked. You can hold it up to the light and see if it's clean. If it's clogged, take it out, sit it in some scale away, clean it up before you put it back in. I will tell you that these lids are sometimes a bear to get off of here because they are supposed to be a metal to metal fit. It's a dry fit. Auto-Chlor does sell a small O-ring that you can install on there to make them easier to replace or to remove in the future. I will also tell you, I'm sure a couple of you have experienced it before, this cover will develop pinholes in it from time to time and create a leak. Unfortunately, Auto-Chlor Memphis does not service just this cover. You've got to replace or at least order the entire strainer. I know Eric down in Norfolk's had that problem before, and I have not had any luck in being able to find just the cap for sale. We're going to check the fill valve now. Rick and I, we're going to change places. This is your fill valve. You want to make sure you check it for leaks when it's sitting idle and when you press the fill button. They don't generally leak, but sometimes they do. For those of you that have not opened one of these up and seen them, there's a small screw that holds the coil in place. This lid unscrews, hopefully not that easily. I've already kind of pre-done this one. You have a diaphragm assembly in here, which I need to grab a screwdriver, break free. Probably should have loosened this up yesterday too, huh? You have a diaphragm assembly, which is actually 3 pieces. You've got an upper and a lower brass housing and the actual diaphragm that is in the middle. You've got an O-ring that creates your seal that sits real nice right in that groove. Inside your cap, you have a plunger and a spring. If you're going to replace the diaphragm, replace the spring and the plunger at the same time. These can be a little tricky. You want to make sure that you hold them upright to push them into the stem and hold them in place until you need to get your finger out of there. From time to time, when you go to replace one of those, that spring will come out of place. When that spring comes out of position, your machine usually will end up filling constantly because the plunger can't move up and down. A little bit of an extra tip. If you ever have a service call or you're doing regular service, and when you hit the fill, the coil buzzes real loud, this bonnet and stem, this top piece, is probably bad and needs to be replaced. Put that back together, put our coil back on, put the screw back in there so I don't lose it. There we go. All right. Next item on the checklist is pressure regulator. Have to turn around for this one. You guys probably don't see a whole lot of these on machines anymore. We generally, when we refurb them, we remove them. It's a rare instance where they don't get removed and a rare instance where we really need them these days because of the adjustable timer on the machine. But the next two things I'm going to show you, those of us that have been around long enough to remember when John Fagan had hair, have seen plenty of these in the field. I wanted to cover them in case you come across one. Works like any other pressure regulator. Your water pressure is adjusted by screwing this stem in on the bottom. The farther in the stem goes, the higher your water pressure to the machine will be until it reaches whatever maximum pressure being fed to the machine is. The two most common problems with pressure regulators. You've got a bleed hole in this bell housing here. When you press fill, you'll get water spraying out of this just like you do with a bad air check valve. That is the result of this black diaphragm that's probably cut. You notice you've got a nut, a large brass washer, and the diaphragm. Diaphragm comes right off. Put your new diaphragm on. Take a look at the brass washer. Notice how it's beveled on one side. The beveled edge always faces the diaphragm so that the sharp edge doesn't cut into it. Put that back on. You've got a small paper gasket in the bell housing. And everything screws back together. And it's going to make a liar out of me. There we go. The other problem you have with these from time to time is when the machine fills, they whistle real loudly. That issue comes from this side of the regulator. You take the cap off, there's a small paper gasket there that can leak. The center insert here, if you remove it, it just unscrews. Inside here, right at the center, is a thick black disc. When those discs distort, they squeeze the water through this, and that's what makes them whistle. So if you ever got a machine that's whistling at you that you've got a pressure regulator on, that's 9 times out of 10, that's your issue. That is pretty much all the serviceable components you guys really need to worry about with a pressure regulator. On legacy machines, they are mounted like this. On your top mount machines, they usually turn them upside and mount them like this. And there is an arrow on the back side that shows you the direction of water flow through them. One other thing I'll cover too is if you run into an older machine, this is the strainer that is used on an older machine. It's in the same place, it's directly behind the shutoff valve. This is a 3-gasket basket style strainer. When you unscrew this strainer, on this side coming in, you have a large basket style strainer that requires 2 gaskets. One underneath it, then the strainer basket, then one on top of it, and one of the same gaskets on this side where it screws to the water line. If you run into one of these have got a habit, if they're not leaking and you torque the water line a little bit to take something apart like a fill valve, these gaskets crack and they leak. I wanted to show you this. There are very few machines in the field that still have them, but they are out there. Next couple items on the checklist. Air check valve. Your air check valve, fortunately on your top mount machines, is down below and up front where it's easy to service. I've got this one loose. We're going to take a look at it. The reason this air check valve is here is because our machines, our standard machines, fill through the pump motor. That creates a suction on this line when the pump motor is running. You guys have probably noticed your machines tend to fill a little bit faster when the machine is running. That's why. It creates a suction on this line. If the machine's filling, it's sucking water in, the machine fills faster. But when your fill stops, it'll suck air through this line. That aerates the water and causes results issues. So the air check valve is here to seal this water line and create suction on it so that the machine runs without pulling air in it. There are a couple of ways this can go bad. When the diaphragms go bad, there is a bleed hole in this lid that will spray water out when the machine goes into the fill cycle. That's a real easy diagnosis. I haven't seen it often, but from time to time, I've had a machine where it wouldn't fill, and it turns out that bleed hole was just packed full of grease. When that happens, your machine will not fill, or it'll fill extremely slow. When you pull this apart, you have three components. You have your diaphragm, which is usually the source of failure. You also have a piston and a spring. All of your newer pistons are all stainless steel. The spring is tapered. It is larger on one end than it is the other. The small end slides down onto your piston. The large end goes in this seat here. And when you take these apart, you should always test that piston to make sure it pushes in all the way smoothly. If it binds up at all, you can take this out, hit it with some scale clean or some Muri. You can also do the same to this lid here. Clean it out. You want to make sure this moves smoothly. If you ever have a situation where your machine sounds real strong, and this is something you have to pick up over time. If your machine sounds really strong as it's refilling, once it gets enough water in it, but as soon as the fill stops, the machine sounds like it falls on its face and it starts sounding like it's sucking water, chances are this piston is either stuck in the lid and hasn't sealed against the diaphragm, or the spring is broken, one of the two. That's a commonly missed issue. Next item on the checklist is going to be cleaning your air vents on your pump motor. Please do not do this while the motor's running, because all you do is knock fuzz into the motor and shorten its life. You have got several sets of vents on these pump motors. Fortunately, most of our newer motors are rotated so that the vents are all accessible, even with an inline scrap trap on it. Simply take a small flat brush and clean all four sections of those pump vents. I also like to look at them and look into the motor. From time to time, you'll have ones that build up grease so bad or haven't been cleaned in a few months that just hitting them on the outside doesn't knock all the fuzz out of them. With those, I'll turn the power switch off, take my pocket screwdriver, and just kind of scoop the fuzz out of this pump motor. Pump motor's life depends on these vents being clean. The pump motor runs cooler. It doesn't overheat the seal in the pump motor. It'll make your pump motors run a lot healthier and last a lot longer. While I'm down here, the next item on the list is checking the cabinet for leaks. Best time to do that, run the machine through a cycle. You're down here on your knees, you've looked at your air check valve, you've cleaned your pump vents, run the machine. What you're looking for is any leak that drips down the bottom of the machine. You can see with this one's a machine we recently pulled, and any water that's leaked down here in the past has left its evidence. It's left a mark where it does. Now you guys all know if you've got a small drip, it's going to run down the machine till it gets to its lowest point, which is usually right here, and then drip off. That can be something as simple as a loose bolt on the cabinet. It can be something as small as a small vacuum brake leak. So you've got to trace your water back up to where the leak starts from. The most common bolts that we find leaks from are where your rack guides bolt in place. These two here, and there are two on the other side. The most common area for those to leak are either from there or from a bolt hole like here or here where this machine was pinned to a table. Sometimes these bolts here, a table doesn't seat all the way down inside of it, leaves these open a little bit and they leak. So check your hardware. I usually make it a plan where 1 month I go out and every machine I service, I'm gonna check these bolts. The next month, I'm gonna check a different set of bolts. You know, all your hood cabinet bolts. It's a good idea to check your bolts from time to time because the vibration and some of the abuse the customers put these machines through can lead to loose bolts. While you're down here, it's not on the list, but I also like to check the thermometer. We have a real issue with two things with these thermometers. One, a customer hits them with their knee, bends them. Now the needle is interfering with the back and the temperature doesn't read right. Many times you can look at it from straight down and pull it straight and correct the problem. If you can't, replace the thermometer. The other issue we have with them, these lenses fog up real bad. I pulled several off my shelf that were brand new, never left the shop, that were fogged up. If this is fogged up, it can lead to a critical violation from the health department because the customer cannot read the temperature of the machine. That's important. If they get fogged up, replace them. You also want to check the drain for leaks. This is done a couple of ways. When the machine is in cycle, you want to make sure you're checking this seal here, this seal down here, to make sure that there are no leaks from your drain. When the machine going through the cycle and it drains, you want to make sure that your 90 here is not leaking and that the water is going all the way into the scrap trap. These 90s over time, right here at the bottom where the water hits them, they do get thin. When they get thin, they can rupture and leak. It's a good idea to give them a squeeze. Make sure they're not soft. And a lot of times if you get silverware in there, you can hear that as well. When the machine's finished running, the last thing I check for leaks is a different kind of leak. You want to make sure that the stopper is down far enough to where the machine holds water. My preferred setting on this is that the stopper seats and has just a little bit of lean to it. So you make sure that stopper makes a good seat. You will let it sit for 5 minutes while you're filling out your invoice or making your notes on your route card. Notate the water level when the machine finishes running. And when you're done updating your route card, check it again and make sure it's not draining down. Draining down can be a number of things. This could be out of adjustment. You could have a fork or a toothpick stuck in the drain. The drain ball could be swollen or grooved, and we've even seen some that blister. Also remember, it's a good idea if you've got them, this extra insert that gives you 2 grooves to put this drain ball in, you guys will find that you'll be having your drain balls out in the field too long because that extra groove really helps hold it in place. Last item in the middle of the checklist, color coding your chemical lines. This is critical. I had a call just this morning from a customer whose plumber disconnected all the chemical lines from the machine, did a plumbing repair, couldn't figure out how to get the lines back, and the customer wants me to drive all the way to Winchester just to put the straws back into the container. This is how you avoid having to make that call. Oops, and I dropped one. Color code your chemical lines, guys. In my shop, we like to use the color-coded stoppers. I find that they tend to double and triple the lives of our straws. If you're not using color-coded stoppers, at least use a color-coded tape so the customer can color code and know which line goes to what. Both of which, either or is fine, whichever your branch prefers to do, but they're critical. If a customer disconnects all 3 chemical containers, they're never gonna get it right if they just guess at it. You got them color-coded, they get it right every time. That is it for the center checklist. If you guys got any questions or comments, please feel free to get a hold of me. Thanks.